Yes, g'day. Welcome to BackChat. You know where we're at. BackChat __ on socials. You can listen to us on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. If you're not watching, you can listen to us on podcasts everywhere you like. Thanks to our supporters and our sponsors, Whippersnapper, Margaret River Roasting Co., Shelter, Bluebet, and of course, Leaderville Cameras. We're sitting next to and with, right here in Melbourne, BackChat Melbourne, Josh Dunkley. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks. How are you guys?
Yeah, very good. Now, look, we're glad you're with us. We were late, you were late. We're all here together now. At BackChat, we don't give a great big introduction about everything you've done in your career. We know that you're a premiership player. We know that you've done a lot of great things for the Western Bulldogs. You've been a great player. But that's not really what we're here for to start the show anyway. Every guest we have in, the first question they get is, besides the great things you've done on the football field, what's your greatest sporting moment not on the football field? We've had great players. We've had basketballers. We've had runners. We've had media personnel. We don't care what you do in your specific sport. We know that you're a great football player. What do you do off the field? You ask the question while I pad a bit more while you think about that. What is this trophy? It's not mine. It's Dan Const. So you tell him about that while he has a think about what
I didn't bring it up, and it always seems to come up in conversation, even all the way over here in Melbourne. But that's a cricket ball that I got 5 wickets for 16 runs in a grand final. Under 12 Stuart Hill Cricket Club. You may have heard of Stuart Hill Cricket Club over here in Melbourne. It's a big deal over in Perth. And so that's my greatest sporting achievement. So I hope I haven't set you up here with something that's maybe not as good as that. Well, no, it doesn't have to be cricket. We've had someone like get a lead role in a play.
They did some sort of trick on a skateboard. They were very happy with. Jimmy Bartell hit a hole in one.
Yeah.
So you can go anywhere with this. I know you play other sports. Just think about what you've done in your whole career.
Well, if I was to stick to cricket, it'd be something to do with making 100 in the pre-season this year. Back home for the local cricket team, which not many people probably know about, but very good. There's one for you. But
Western
another
Bulldogs media team sitting here shaking their heads.
I've got another one. Yeah. You said lead role in a play. I actually did ballet as a kid.
Nice.
And I played lead role in a Peter Pan
very
show,
good.
Whatever you call it.
That is bloody great. So you were Peter Pan in ballet?
Well, I wasn't actually, because one of the girls did the Peter Pan role, but I was Michael. You know
which one's Michael?
I think it's like the brother or whatever, or like of the I was
one
of the lead roles.
So you had like Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell, yep.
Hook,
yep, everything.
Oh, good. I've got to be honest. For mine, that is actually right up there as one of the best we've heard here on BackChat.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's a different one. Not many people know about it.
Yeah, I know you want to ask what I've done. State champion under 9 hurdles, 80 metres. Hurdles were about this far off the ground. Did quite well in 800 metres, but I was a bit older. I was a bit like, oh yeah, good on you. But yeah, hurdles is mine. But ballet, Josh, very good.
Thank you.
Now talk to us about your upbringing. Did you grow up in Sydney while your dad was playing?
Yeah, I grew up there for 6 years, and we moved back after he finished straight away. So he finished in 2002, end of 2002, and then we moved back to a small town in Gippsland called Yarram, which is where Mum and Dad met, essentially, and they moved away together to go to Sydney and grew up there ever since.
So your mum and dad are Victorian?
Yep.
Are you a New South Welshman?
I'm a New South Welshman.
Oh, no.
Born in Darlinghurst in a hospital that's no longer there.
Wow.
Got knocked down.
Okay, so your dad did play for Sydney. That's relatively widely known. Played a lot of good games for Sydney. You come through the TAC Cup, though, because you've moved back to Victoria.
Yep.
You played for Gippsland?
Gippsland Power.
Captain?
I was the captain.
Very good. What was the TAC Cup like?
I found the TAC Cup hard, to be honest. Like, it was it's not a selfish brand, but it's a lot of guys trying to put their name up in lights. And I played senior footy at 15 years old for Sale Football Club, which was awesome. We managed to win the flag that year in my first year of senior footy, but coming from a team-style game plan to then going into the TAC Cup, I found quite difficult because I'm more of a defensive sort of team-based player. Well, that's how I like to see it.
Yeah,
so,
that's what you like to tell people.
Yeah.
You do look like that from external. What's it like playing as a 15-year-old in a senior grand final in a premiership?
It was awesome. It was something that I'll never forget. Like the way that it was Matt Ferguson. I don't know if you heard of Matt Ferguson, but Ross Lyon coached him at St Kilda. He played a handful of games there and then came back to Sale and brought the defensive game plan, the 18-man zone, to country footy, and not one team could get near us. It was unbelievable. So I learnt the wing role, and that was it for the rest of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
And so did you take any of that through your junior? You would have learned a fair bit, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like knowing your role, playing your role, being able to perform it. And so I carried that through my whole 16s, 18s journey and then managed to get drafted at pick 25.
So you're a country Victorian. You'll be playing a premiership as a 15-year-old. You on the waters, Mad Monday?
I was, yeah. I was.
A couple of shandies, like a little bit of beer in this lemonade or something like that.
Mix it in, quart of beer. Nah.
That's unreal. I didn't know that. Very good. So a part of that, though, okay, so your dad plays enough games with the Sydney Swans for you to be eligible to be father-son. You get selected by the Western Bulldogs in their 2015 draft, so the end of 2015.
Yep.
But Sydney don't match it. You're the first father-son that the club doesn't match the bid. Does one, like right now, does that mean anything to you? At the time, were you happy, sad? You played with the Sydney Academy, right? You spent time.
Yeah, I did. I spent time up there because of the father-son program.
Yeah.
So I did have a lot of good relationships at the footy club. If I was to look back and see or say whether I was happy or sad, I don't really know, to be honest. Because as a kid, you want to play AFL football. Obviously, the interstate factor was there. I was living with my family in Gippsland, and I was happy to remain in Melbourne, not too far away. But looking back, I think that no matter where you go, you're going to have fun. You're going to live up to your dream that you always wanted to do as a kid. So I don't really know. There's no hard feelings from Sydney. I have a lot of good relationships there, as I said. But yeah, moved on.
Did you spend time there as a kid growing up at the footy club?
Yeah, plenty of time. There's vision of me running out with Dad in his last game, and then obviously through my journey through the under 16s, 18s, and the father-son program, I was up there a lot. So yeah, a lot of good people up there.
As a young kid, do you remember anything from being in the rooms? You know, like as a player, you would see now, guys, is there guys that play at the Bulldogs with kids coming in? Do you remember being that kid?
Yeah, I remember stealing chewies off the trainers and stuff like that all the time. And I do remember running out in Dad's last game, and you run through the banner and you see all the kids get pulled off straight away after that. I kept running. So I was like, I thought I was a player. I'm just running out. The Swans mascot had to come and get me from the other side of the grounds because I'd ran too far.
The mascot.
Yeah.
We have to find out what mascot it was. We're doing a the best, worst mascots in the competition from all eras. So was it a swan?
It was a swan.
Okay.
Yep.
Classic.
Very good. So you actually, the first game that you play in 2016, you have the same amount of touches that your dad did when he debuted.
Really?
I believe so.
Wow.
I believe so, Charlie.
That's incredible.
Is that right? Did you heard that before?
I haven't heard that before.
Well, it may or may not be right. I think it is. So yeah, you had the same amount of touches that you both did.
How does when you hear that then, are you, I don't know, does that, I mean, obviously you look surprised, but is that sort of special?
Yeah, it is special. Definitely. I think I kicked a goal that game too, but he probably didn't. So maybe I've got that one up.
Was it your first kick?
No. Nah.
It was a good goal.
Was it my first kick? Nah, it was close. It was first quarter. It was just a Joe the Goose over the back. Jakey Stringer tapped it to me and I snapped it through.
Do you remember your first kick? Does it like playing your first game in AFL?
Oh.
Is that, given like a lot of kids, right? Like me included, there's guys in the AFL that, never really have a glimpse of what the AFL life is like when they're growing up. But you did with the father who's playing, is it, again, you won't be able to compare to not being doing it, but is it a bigger moment? Is it a big moment for you, that first game, that first kick, that first touch, that first running out in front of the crowd?
Yeah, it was a huge moment. I mean, I had all the family there and everyone that had supported me. I tried to get to the game. So throughout that journey was obviously go through a lot of ups and downs to get to that position, but it was nice to be able to run out in front of them and do them proud, I guess, in a way. Like it's a moment that the family, or your family cherishes as a young kid. So it was nerve-wracking, but I don't really remember my first kick. I think my first touch was a handball and I turned it over, I reckon. So it was not a memorable one.
Dad always used to give me a lot of feedback when I was playing, but he was an AFL footballer. Does Andrew?
Oh, yeah, big time. He's always on the phone straight after the game and he gives me feedback.
And at what point are you able to go, listen, Dad, I've been doing this for long enough now?
Well, I try to go back to him sometimes with little things like, I don't know, I was a bit sore or whatever, but he doesn't give me any excuses, I should say.
What about Mum?
Mum's more sympathetic. Like she's like, he did really well, tried really hard.
You're a good
Played
boy.
well today.
Played well, yeah. Every week,
Mum,
play well.
Mum, I had 7 touches. I stunk it up.
Yeah, I normally write back. I'd be like, Mum, it wasn't a good game.
You ever go for a kick with your dad still? Like, is the footy come out?
Yeah, it has a few times. As a kid, definitely. Like, he was in the backyard with myself and my younger brother and my older sister who played a bit of footy when she was younger. But of late, I did have a kick with him this pre-season over Christmas just because he was there and I was running laps around Sale Footy Oval, and he came to watch me for a little bit, and came out on the field, and we had a little kick. It was pretty funny because his back's cooked.
I was going to say, a bit domsy.
Oh,
he'd
mate.
be gone. He'd still be recovering.
He wasn't moving much. He was just standing in the one spot, just kicking them back to me. So it was good.
So 2016, your first season. You're a premiership player at the end of 2016. Yep. So you play your first game in 2016, and then your final game of that year is a premiership. Do you look back now? You know, we're fairly far removed from it now, 7 years ago. Does it feel like it was that long ago?
Yeah, it does, to be honest. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago. Just the way that it all transpired, and at the time, like being a first-year player, it's like everything's just a whirlwind. Like you forget about the moment and things like that. So the build-up was awesome, but I reckon I definitely probably took it for granted, the amount of work and power of work that not only players but staff and footy clubs put into winning a premiership.
Yeah, so some specific stuff I wanted to ask you about at 2016, the end of 2016, the last game of that year, you play Fremantle in Subiaco.
Yep.
In Western Australia. You got a lot of injury. You have 5 or 6 out. Get beaten. You're beaten, right?
Yep.
And then there's the...
Smashed. We were smashed.
Yeah, smashed. And then pre-finals bye happens. So you get a week off. And you come back to Western Australia to play West Coast.
Yeah.
Who are flying at that stage. Beating a couple of good sides. Up and about. Western Bulldogs just lost to Fremantle. They bought a few players back. From your side of things, I was on the other side. I played on the other side. Yep. You're looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. What was the... given how we both know how football club works, what was said inside the 4 walls? Was it an ambush? Was it okay, this is what's happened against Fremantle. We've lost that, but we're going to jump West Coast here?
Yeah, it was. We definitely talked about post for the Freo game because we knew that we were coming back to Perth. I think it was 10 days later. Yeah. So we played on the Sunday and the final was on the following Thursday week, essentially, and it was all pretty much... Bevo asked the question after the game, do you believe we can do it? Like, as a team, we're all young and inspired by, certain things that happened on the footy field. But at that time, we'd obviously got pumped by Freo. So it was pretty embarrassing. So he pulled us all together, asked that question, do you believe we can do it? And everyone sort of sat in the room and looked around and was like, yeah, I think we can. And then we obviously had six or seven changes. And then we came over against the Eagles and put on a show. But it was more about taking inspiration and confidence from the crowd a little bit. Like, we looked at that and that aspect of being the away team, the underdogs, really embraced that opportunity to come out on top.
Was that a theme that ran through the final series?
Yeah, it did. The whole time. The next week we played Hawthorn at the MCG, reigning premiers, and then the Giants the following week in the prelim, who were arguably the best team that year. Probably would have been the best team that year if they had beaten us in that prelim.
Yes. I watched that game with your forward line coach, Matt Spanger. He just made me remember right here in Melbourne. That was one of the great finals games of all time. Bulldogs v Giants. It was at Giant Stadium.
It was.
So you effectively played away the whole final series. So that crowd aspect, that would have been the biggest crowd GWS has probably ever had. I don't know if it was, but they were up and absolutely flying. They make a grand final in 2017, but 2016 they were one of the best sides, and you guys were coming from outside the top 4. As young guys and now being older, do you think it was like blind ignorance a little bit that it was just like, it doesn't matter, we'll just take on anyone, we'll beat them? Like now you're a bit older, a bit wiser, made it be harder to do? Like
100%.
More experienced team?
Yeah, definitely. I think we were all that young and excited about playing finals footy. Like, it was something that it wasn't treated as a finals game, it was just treated as any normal home and away sort of game. So we went in as underdogs and embraced that opportunity that we could, and yeah, as I said, came out on top. But that I remember that Giants game. That was one of the hardest games I reckon I've ever played in, just physically, and the run and carry that the Giants have. I remember in the last quarter, they kicked the first 2 goals, I reckon, to start the quarter. We were 9 points down or something. And I was like, we're cooked here. And then all of a sudden, we turned it around and came out on top, which was great.
At what point in that final series did you start to think like this could be a year that you could go all the way? Because I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the ladder. So first spot, 17 wins. You guys had 15. So it wasn't like you were 7th, but it wasn't a huge gap between top and the bottom of the 8.
Yeah, I think the way we started that year, I think we were 8-0 that year into 2016. And we had a good start to the year, and the confidence was definitely there. And then we got a lot of injuries and lost some really close games. So we had the confidence that we could definitely take it up to the opposing opposition. And the final series, I think after the West Coast game, we really believed that we could do it. and then obviously knocking off Hawthorn the week after really helped that confidence, and the maturity as a group grew from that moment.
Who were mum and dad cheering for in the grand final? Western Bulldogs v Sydney.
I think Western Bulldogs, I think. Deep down, Dad was probably like had a little soft spot for the Swans, but yeah, they definitely got around us. I think Dad wore a scarf, which was
really
rare for him.
Well done.
Right.
It's a good scarf, isn't it? Not bad from you, Charlie. Good action there.
What was the role of Bob Murphy in that final series?
Yeah, it's a good question. He was obviously that year went down with a knee round 3, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah, so he just looked after everyone. Like the way that he was a bit of a mentor for the whole playing group, and we got together. I remember after that game was third game of footy, and we all came in as a footy club and looked at each other and said, Bob's obviously going to be a massive loss for us, but at the same time he's still going to be around. We have to support him. But it was a big moment for the club, I think, that time when Bobby went down, and for him to remain focused and have that goal in mind for the whole club was just incredible. And the way that he embraced being injured in a way and missing out on the year was just insane.
Did he coach at all? Like, it's always difficult with current players, even if they're injured or not, to really act as a coach. Was he a coach or was he more a mentor?
Oh, I think he was probably more of a mentor. He did help the backs out with certain things. Rowan Smith was our backline coach at the time. He is now again. So he would point things out and sort of help that communication between coach and player, I think. But more of a mentor with the younger guys, especially with myself and Zane Cordy and guys like that, Toby McLean and younger guys that were coming into the system and playing roles.
What do you remember of the day? Like you're a 19-year-old. You're 19 by that stage?
I was 19, yeah.
So what do you remember? I don't know what I was doing at 19. I wasn't playing in grand final. What do you remember of the day? Not so much the game, the day. Like waking up, were you nervous, or were you just youthful bliss? And just another game.
I was very nervous. I woke up because everyone comes from everywhere, all over the country to watch the grand final, and I had a lot of tickets and family coming, and I just remember waking up. I like to sleep in game day, and I reckon I woke up at like 7:30.
Love that.
And I was just wide awake. Like I was oh no, this is bad.
I'm coming from I've got kids now, so I don't sleep in anymore, but from a past sleeper-innerer, you wake up early and you can't get back to sleep, and it's like panic stations.
Big time.
I need to go to sleep.
Big time. So I was straight up into brekkie and things like that, and lucky the day was short because the grand final was like 3:20, I think it was, the daytime.
Yeah. Early,
so
you got earlier, get there early.
Yeah, a bit earlier, the prep and stuff. So, yeah, I don't remember too much. I remember standing there in the national anthem and just hearing the crowd, because both teams go up at the same time, like the crowd noise, and that was probably the biggest moment apart from the siren. Yeah. Post-game siren. It was just an incredible moment.
How'd you play?
I was okay. I brought my pressure game, which is always important.
Good.
I think I had 7 tackles or something.
You can hang your hat on that.
Yeah.
I didn't get much of it.
I missed a goal, which was disappointing, because if you keep going to the grand final, you can really celebrate.
Yeah. It's
15 touches.
15 touches, yeah.
15 and 7.
Yeah.
15, 7 tackles.
Did you
grand final win?
Do you remember it was a big deal at West Coast when we won it in 18, because in 2006 some of the guys didn't give the kids the hats that you were asked to give the Auskick kids. Do you remember if you gave your hat to the Auskick kids?
Yeah, I gave it first.
You seem like a very well-mannered, well-spoken man, so I'm sure you did. But a few fell on their sword at West Coast, exactly like you. Great people, but just forgot what they were doing up there.
It is a moment where you look back and you watch the vision of you getting presented on stage, and you're like, I don't even know what I was doing. Because you're so aroused and buzzed by the moment.
Yeah.
You sort of lose track a little bit.
So you were first up. Is that right?
Nah, I was number 20.
Oh, that's right.
So I was a few in, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Who won the Norm Smith that year?
JJ.
He did?
Yes.
So we've spoken to a couple of Norm Smiths on this podcast, and they're alerted to the fact that they've won the Norm Smith. So someone comes to them and shakes their hand.
Oh, really?
Tells them, yes.
Yeah, right.
So I was going to ask, doesn't sound like you know, whether JJ knew he was winning it, whether you boys knew he was winning it, whether it was a surprise at the time.
Nah.
If you can remember it.
Yeah, definitely a surprise. I thought Tommy Boyd or Jordan Roughhead or Liam Picken probably would have won it that day, but I don't know if JJ found out. I'll ask him.
That's funny, those three you mentioned. None of them at the football club anymore? Is that right?
No, they're not. Yeah.
So Jordan's at Collingwood, just retired.
Just retired. Pico retired,
Pico
obviously.
retired.
Concussion.
Yep.
And Ruffy and
Boydie.
Yeah, Boydie was the other one.
Have you got? Does it feel like at the club now that it's a really new group? Like does 2016, it's 7 years ago. Is it a completely new group? You mentioned 3 of the best players are not even there anymore.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a new group. We've got a lot of guys in there now that were drafted 3 years ago as younger players that are sort of maturing and becoming the core group at the footy club. So I think it is very new compared to what we used to have. There is still a lot of premiership players in the team, but the youth is probably the most important part when you're looking at future and things like that.
With the I'm always interested in jumper numbers. You went from 20 to 5, and that's why I thought you would have been one of the first at the grand final, but you were 20 at the time. So why the move to number 5? Yeah,
so it's a good question. Post 2017, I think it was 2017. It was the jumper change. So I obviously had the grand final 16, 17. I did my shoulder, and I was, as players, you go through rough times. I was struggling a little bit, just through things on field, off field, bit of everything, and I wanted a fresh start, and I did. So I sort of got asked whether or not I'd be keen to do it. And Matty Boyd was a good mentor of mine when he was at the footy club, and then Rowan Smith, another one that I worked closely with at the club, both number 5. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to move into that number and a bit higher up in the locker room, and next to Bont and guys like that. Lukey Dalhouse was number 6 at the time, and I thought it was a good opportunity for me, so I took it with both hands.
Is it a handover? Did Matty Boyd come out straight out of 5 then?
That was when he came out of 5. But
so he's at Fremantle coaching now, right?
Yeah, so it was good because I caught up with him last year when we were in Perth before the grand final. Adam and I went to his place for dinner leading up to the grand final, so it's nice to be able to have that connection with him. But he didn't actually come and present it to me.
No.
He just sort of sent me a cheeky message on the side saying, well done.
Is there, it's always good to give insight for people that, haven't been in locker rooms at AFL clubs. You got stuff written on your lockers? Is there 100-game players? Is there, what goes on the lockers at the Bulldogs?
Yeah, it's 100-game players, and then premiership players are in gold. But everyone that's played over 100 is on that locker with the games that they've played.
Very good. Is it blank? Does your name go up and then is it blank until you finish up, or do they leave you off it until you finish?
So until you finish, you're not on there. Apart from they've got like a little plastic slip that you slide into it while you're playing.
Yes, that's very good.
So my name is on the number 20 locker in gold already.
Oh, so your name goes gold.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. At West Coast, it's a cup. Like a premiership cup goes up next to your name.
Do you ever just go up and look at it?
Sorry?
Do you just go up and look at your name?
He says it every day.
I see it a fair bit because I walk past sort of number 20.
Yeah, glance at it every
just
time.
Just have a look and appreciate it a little bit.
Taking you inside the locker room here at BackChat on Western Bulldogs. What about a bit of a heavier question? What about leadership and culture? How much across the journey do you look at yourself and as a leader at the football club? Do you take little bits of everybody? Do you feel like you've been shaped by your family, your upbringing? Leadership to you, what's that?
Yeah, my leadership's probably taken a bit of a journey over my time. I definitely think the person that I am today is thanks to my family. The way they brought me up and everyone that sort of helped me to that point or to this point. But I remember under 15s, I was pretty quiet as a kid and didn't say a lot. And then under 16s, I got picked in the AIS AFL Academy. And from there, I just sort of started becoming that leader on field and leading by example through actions and things like that. I wasn't an overthinker or speaker or anything like that. So to be able to go into that program and learn and grow, and we did a lot of leadership sessions, and Chris Johnson was actually the coach, and he appointed me captain of the under-17 Australian team. And that was probably the first moment where I thought, wow, like this is what I want to do and be. So I learnt through a lot of people. Bobby Murphy I mentioned before, and other guys like Bonty has been a really good mentor for me and looked after me across the journey. So to come into a footy club with a bit of leadership experience as a young player was definitely something that I reckon helped me be the player and person that I was pretty quickly. And then, I was in the leadership group in 2019. So it was something that I always wanted to do, but I didn't think that I had the capabilities of early days until that moment where I got the captain of the Aussie team.
Okay, Chris Johnson, multiple premiership player with the Brisbane Lions.
Yep.
You mentioned Marcus Montempelli. Do you at all, whilst playing, realise that you may be playing with like a generational player? Like he is the way he moves, the way he's shaped, the way he plays is different to we've seen many do it before him, or is he just Bont?
Just Marcus.
You probably just see him as Bont, to be honest. Like you obviously appreciate the greatness that he brings to the footy field and as a leader as well of the club. But I personally don't treat him any differently. I'm not like, he's going to be a generational player or anything like that. But you hear all the noise from the outside, and then, you do sometimes sit back when he does something freakish and you're like, wow, it's pretty cool.
Does that happen on the footy field?
Yeah.
Not just him, but others around you?
Yeah, there's definitely
others.
others.
A bit of time to go, what's going on here?
When something crazy happens, definitely. Yeah.
What about Luke Beveridge? Talk to us about Bevo. I've had a few interactions with Bevo. One as a player, just watching him, and he always seemed like a good coach. So what he was able to do in 2016 felt like, as a playing group in 2016, like we were the word like ambushed. Like we thought we'd beat you, and we didn't, and you rolled us. And I put that down to your coach.
Yep.
Players are going to execute, obviously. And then I've watched him as sort of, I'm in the media now, so I watch him interact with media, and he can get prickly. And then, for use of a better word, but I can see the glint in his eye that he's just doing it for protection of his club, right? And then the third one, I sort of packaged all that together. I was fortunate enough, he was walking along the boundary working for Fox Footy, and I just said to him, really respect what you've been able to do, and sort of I was able to see like the guard come down completely, and he was really genuine answer back. Does that summarise him as a whole? Able to influence the group, can get prickly, but deep down is a very loving and caring coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I remember the first day I ever met Bevo, and I wasn't even drafted yet. I was a 17, 18-year-old kid, and he came to my house with the recruiters and pretty much had a relationship since then. The way that we connected and the respect that he showed in me as a junior to then be obviously playing underneath him as an AFL player, and you said it to a T. The way that he cares about his players, he protects his players. He's a very loving and caring person, and honest at times when he needs to be, which is good. But the main one is, I think, that the care and passion that he has for his players. It's like he's a father figure of the footy club.
So he came to your house with the recruiters.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I met any head coaches before. I'm pretty sure they knew I'd be available pretty late in the night. Okay. Bevo. Have you got any Bevo stories you can share? Any I don't know, any decent ones that are fit for public consumption? Anything that's made you laugh? Anything that's happened that you
copped a good spray from him?
Yeah, actually.
I've copped a good spray from him. He gave it to me in my first year. I tried to do, those inside out kicks, like when you're
on your right foot.
On your right foot and you're trying to pull it back.
Yeah, I've seen lots of guys do those.
I tried to do one of those against Freo in my first year. Might have been.
It wasn't your first game, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Freo.
No, it wasn't Freo. It must have been someone else. But I've tried to pull a kick inside late in the back defensive 50, turnover goal.
Oh no!
What do you have to say about it?
Just told me that it was my first year of footy. Don't try and bite off more than you can chew. And he thought I was Lairising a bit, so I got dragged for it, and he gave me an earful.
What was the hubs and bubbles like over the COVID season, sort of over the last couple of years? We'll touch on 21 and grand final and getting that stage, but started in 2020 and moved into 21 here in Melbourne, playing in front of no crowds. What was all that like for you personally?
Personally, I think I struggled with it a little bit. The way that obviously the crowd stuff was first in Melbourne, playing in front of no one, which was just like you could hear anything. Like you could hear seats flicking over. It was like training run. Yeah. So the motivation and I don't know, the arousal levels sort of were down a little bit, and we talked about trying to get them back up and going, but it was very hard. So then went to Queensland and started to play in front of crowds, and in the hub, seeing each other every day, it became a little bit probably too much at times for some people, and me included. I struggled, I reckon, a little bit not having that outlet from football. So yeah, it was tough. I think it was very tough, but the following year to come back and really embrace being back in Melbourne and playing in front of crowds again helped us, have a good start to last year. I know you said we weren't touching on 21, but
that's good. You can let us in there.
Yeah, a good start to last year, and then obviously the end of the season was COVID hit again, and we had to go into the hubs for finals. So I feel like those hubs were definitely managed a little bit better compared to the year before, and the way that we were able to do that and embrace those moments was good.
It was it was a little bit like 2016. Doesn't end as well, but you had a fair bit against you coming into that final series. You spent a lot of time away from home, and you're on the road for 8-9 weeks.
Yeah,
the back end.
Yep.
Is that spoken about as a playing group, or is it just every week as it comes?
Yeah, at the time, it's definitely spoken about. I think knowing that we could be away for a long period of time and away from family, partners, everyone that supports you as a player. So we did talk about it, but I think the way that the boys were able to embrace it and learn from the year before's experience, like the hub the year before, was difficult for a lot of people. So to come in and gel as a group, I felt like the hub last year throughout the final series really shaped us to be the team that we were in that series.
Where were you hubbing? What?
We went. Ours was crazy.
Yeah.
Ours was like we went to Tassie.
Yeah.
And then we were there for 2 weeks. Then we went to Brisbane, and we were treated like we're in quarantine.
Yes, like wearing hazmat suits around effectively.
Yeah. 2 up in the lift at once.
Okay.
Weren't allowed to leave your room.
Perfect. You're walking viruses. Yes.
Literally.
Nice.
And we'd tested for all year.
5 times a day, basically.
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
So probably the cleanest people in the country.
So that was in Brisbane.
That was in Brisbane, and then we went from there to Perth.
Yes.
For a week, and then we played Adelaide in the prelim. So we just flew from Perth into Adelaide.
Didn't stay.
Stayed one night, and then flew back to Perth. Another week quarantine.
Wow.
Out. Week before the grand final.
Where were you staying in Perth?
The first week we stayed at Crown Plaza.
Yep.
On
like in Burswood, like in the
city.
Yep.
Yeah. Across the road from that park. And
Sorry, yep, Langley Park, yep.
We had a massive, caged off area. It was like we're in a zoo. That we could, if we wanted to go for a walk, we just had to walk 100 metre squares around this big park.
You're not saying this. I am thanking Mr. McGowan for that treatment, because that's probably where that came in. It's okay, so you were caged animals there.
Yep.
And is that where you were there for you went?
No, we went to Adelaide for one night and then came back and we stayed in Freo. I can't remember what the place was called.
Oh, I know where you stayed. The big white one.
Yeah.
Trade winds.
That's the one, yeah.
That's a nice
Charlie
hotel.
Charlie was hovering there, I reckon.
That was a really good hotel. And then by then we were out of quarantine, so
Freo's a great place.
Freo was nice. Hit up the beaches, Cottesloe. It was pretty nice over there actually at the time.
Would have been nice to finish with a grand final win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way that it all unfolded for us in that game was disappointing, because we were up in the third quarter by 20-something points, I think, and to then sort of lose it a little bit and get smashed in the end was a little bit embarrassing, and it does hurt as players and definitely as a footy club. But I feel like it's a good learning experience for some of the younger guys too. Like, I wouldn't say that for me back in 2016, because obviously we won, but it is a good experience for the young guys to go through. Obviously not a grand final in Melbourne, so it's a little bit different if it was to be in Melbourne.
You played in the 2016 grand final and premiership. Did 2021 feel like the same? Did it feel like a grand final? I know it would have felt different, but did it feel like a grand final?
Yeah, I think it felt like a grand final, but there was just no build-up. Like, grand final parade wasn't on.
Yeah.
There was no presentations. Your family couldn't get around you because they were at home.
Yes, did any family get in at all? I know there was some arrangements.
I have an auntie and uncle there, so they came to the game. And then I had a close mate, Michael Ablett. Do you know Mickey Ablett? He used to work with the AIS and works with WA, I think, over there. No. But he came to the game, so he's someone that I knew. And yeah, that was probably the only guys that I could have at the game.
I mean, that's a big difference, isn't it? Because that's what the grand final would have been like in 2016.
Yeah.
Family.
Everyone. Literally everyone, that mum and dad, grandparents, both sides, cousins, aunties, uncles. It was just everyone was there. It was pretty cool.
What about the night grand final?
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. In Perth, it was pretty good weather, so it was nice to be able to run out in a twilight. It was like a twilight game, I think, 4:40 or 5 o'clock.
It was like a cracking night.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night. You couldn't probably ask for any better conditions. So it was pretty cool to play at Optus. I love Optus Stadium. It's awesome. The way that they've built that and turned it into a spectacle is pretty cool.
How much do you review a loss like that? So I called the game with radio in Perth, and I remember this moment when you guys were up, and I'd picked you guys pre-game. I like back in the underdogs, and I think you guys were underdogs coming out of the game, and I'd talked you up, and whenever you come out and say something, you like to see that it happen. So I remember just sitting there, thinking, I can't believe they're going to beat Melbourne. Like I was talking shit a bit pre-game, to be honest, because I thought it was going to be a closer game, but I said, nah, Bulldogs will roll them. They're on a roll. But then you end up getting done. How much do you sit down and review it? Like, how much do you go through that as players?
We didn't.
Have you watched it?
Nah, haven't watched it at all. It was something that we just sort of you stew on for about a week, I think. But as a footy club, we didn't go anywhere near it. It was all about when we came back from pre-season. It was like, yep, we know this has happened. We've parked it. We're moving forward. So we actually I haven't even thought about it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising me.
Yeah.
Is it something you think, or yeah, you sound pretty happy about it though, in terms of
happy about not watching the game?
No, happy about it. It sounds like you have moved on.
Yeah, I've moved on. There's definitely a chink in the armour though. I think like the way that it all unfolded, and personally, I come off a shoulder reco that last year, and I was sort of struggling to find form after I got back from that. But then started playing some consistent footy. So you look at everything involved in the game itself, and I feel like I could have been better for the team. I'm sure there were a lot of other guys the same. So there is a disappointing factor to it, but I don't really want to look back anymore. I want to look forward.
Do you think you'll ever go back and watch it?
Oh, I see highlights at times and just look away straight away. So I don't think so. I don't think I'll ever sit down and watch the full game. Even 16, I haven't watched the full game at all.
Took me close. Oh yeah, it took me about 5 years to watch 2015.
From start to finish, like you just sat down and put it on?
Same as Josh, I wouldn't watch it, and I wasn't like Josh. I was filthy.
Yeah,
and then maybe he's just got a good poker face. I don't know, but yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. The only thing in Josh's favour, he's won one already. But
did you watch yours? You watched it after you'd won, so there was a little less sting on.
Yeah, well, that's the only way I could watch it because and then when I did watch it though, I will give you this advice. When I did watch it, it was a lot. It was less. It was better than I thought it was. Like in my mind, play Hawthorn 2015, get completely rolled, lose by I don't know 40 points or something, 48 points. What do these guys lose by? Do you know?
Oh, 10 goals.
Yeah,
was it?
Similar amount. It was like 10 goals, and in my head, we just did everything wrong.
Yeah.
Not one thing I could take out of that. When I did sit down and watch it, I watched it by myself. I was down in Mandurah at the family house, and it just happened to be on TV, and I was tired. I was probably hungover, and I was like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do this. So I sat and watched the whole thing start to finish, and it was just a couple of moments for us that there was one sort of like 2-goal turnaround where we were coming really hard, and I don't really feel like pointing out who it was. You know, there was a moment that we lost 2 goals, and there was another moment like that, which is like a 4-goal turnaround in a grand final. Yeah. And it's like all over. It was the same for you boys, I'm sure, because I watched your game. You had some centre clearance stuff that went wrong that turned, potentially almost like scores level at 3/4 time to down by 4 or 5 goals, and it's all over, honestly.
Yep.
And so it may be a 5-minute period of that game. So just my advice, maybe have a little look at if you feel like you need to do it. Yeah. Might not be as bad as you think. Joe's like, shut up, mate. Yeah. Shut up, mate. We lost the grand final last year.
Yeah, it's still fresh, man.
Yeah, I know. What about your friendship with Adam Treloar? I've seen it across media a little bit, but what about from your perspective? You guys are good mates by the sound of it.
Yeah, we are. We never knew each other before he got traded to the Dogs, so we caught up the day after the trade period, I think it was, and literally laid everything out on the table, talked about, things that I struggle with, things he struggled with, and his experiences and stuff. And I think straight away from there we connected based on, obviously, the feelings and emotions being thrown around. And I, as I said, never knew him previous to that. So to find someone that you know or you feel like you know a lot was pretty cool. So ever since then, we've been in each other's pockets. We live a fair way away from each other, but just the way that he's been able to help me, and hopefully I've been able to help him, has been big in my footy, I think, because I could have struggled after that trade period and everything that went down, but he helped me day to day at the footy club, still does now, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Both your partners play netball?
Yeah.
Not for the same team though.
Nah.
How does that go? Is there a rivalry there?
Well,
you boys are on the same team.
So the first year they played together, and then Tipper, my partner, moved to Adelaide last year. So they were enemies this year, but teammates the year before. So the way that they actually played each other twice this year, one each.
Yes.
So it was good bragging rights, and we couldn't really go too far.
There must be some elite operating systems in your relationships. I mean, there's 4 people, all elite athletes. Like, is there too much at times? Like, do we just take a step back from the elite sporting arena for 5 seconds? Chuck some Netflix on or something?
Yeah, definitely chuck Netflix on or a TV show or whatever it might be. But a lot of the time, like I spend a lot of time on my body, like recovering and stuff like that. So my house at home is set up purely for...
I have heard this. You got a gym in your house?
I've got a gym. We've got hot and colds. We've got a sauna. We've got a basketball court down the back.
I have this line in front of me. Renovated his house, has a gym in it, which is appropriate because he loves his rig. I won't say who that's from.
Who's that come from?
I can't tell you who that's
Is that
from.
Spang?
I can't tell you who that's from. I'm sorry, Josh. I can't
If that's
reveal
from
my
Spang,
sources.
I'll be disappointed.
Maybe he means in a nice way. Because it sounds... You just said I spend a lot of time on my body.
Yeah, I do. I don't... Well, if you want to have a good rig, you got to work on it. But
So he loves his rig.
I don't think my rig's in peak condition. I feel like I want to get the most out of myself, and that's why I've got that set up. Like I look at guys in other sports, in American sports, LeBron James, guys like that, they spend a lot of money on their bodies. So I took the time and effort and spent the cash to get to that point. So I feel like it's a good setup for me.
Yeah. Are you surprised if you're an American sports fan that more players don't do that? More players don't go overseas and go on training programs like we do see. Is money the barrier, or is it like mindset? Is it players not?
I personally think that it's mindset, because you can get a lot of stuff back on tax if you're going over there to train.
Yes. Hello, Mr. ATO.
Yeah. Well, you can always claim your trip, a little bit of it.
Yeah,
but
correct. Especially if you're training.
Yeah, I think it's the intent and how much you want to get out of yourself. Like I've always been a big believer in you get what you put in. So my parents made a lot of sacrifices for me, and I've made a lot of sacrifices for myself to get to this point. So I don't want to be chewed up and spat out like any other sort of normal player. I want to get the most out of my body and myself as a player and a person to then hopefully, longevity of your career.
How is the rig? Shoulder injury?
Shoulders, I've had both shoulder recos.
Yeah.
I've had an ankle reco, another ankle syndesmosis, finger, bit of like just everything.
Does it feel good?
Feels pretty good. I'm a little bit restricted, like because I've had a bone block put in both, so I can't move as well as what I used to be able to.
Sounding old if you start.
Yeah, I know.
Back in the day, I used to be able to move a bit better.
But no, I'm feeling pretty good. My body's this year's been good because it's been consistent. Like I've had troubles in the past not being able to play consistent footy through injury, but all my injuries have been traumatic. Like nothing, no soft tissue, touch wood.
Yeah,
but
put your arms all over that, please, right now.
Yeah.
I won't be responsible for this.
But yeah, the consistency on the field has been good this year, which is nice.
This is going to sound like a stupid question. With the hot cold system at home, because if you're at the football club, all of that's done for you, right? You can just rock up and it's there ready. So you're at home and you have to heat up the water, get the ice out. Like it's just a lot of effort to do that for yourself.
Yeah, so personally, I don't do it at the footy club, so I'll just do it at home.
Right.
A lot of the time. So we're under redevelopment at the moment too, by the way. So
The Dogs.
Yeah. So a lot of it's a bit makeshift. Like
Rubbish bins, you put your own ice in it.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. So I'll just leave and go and do it at home. I do it nearly every day. Hot and cold, sauna. But
Does anyone else get an invite? Is it just the Josh Dunkley performance centre of excellence and performance?
It's a good question. I don't really. Elliot's over there. He wants an invite to my house to come and have a look. But,
I want to go.
I want to see it.
I haven't run in 12 months, so I want to go around there.
Yeah, well, it is. I do invite some people around every now and then, but a lot of guys live like South Melbourne, Williamstown, so a long way away from where I am.
Yep.
There's a few boys that know the setup and come and enjoy it at times.
To distribute this to the Bulldogs playing list. I think there'll be a few boys lining up if they're putting their own ice in the bins at the club.
Yeah.
Dunks is just going back, flicking the switch,
Yeah.
jumping the ice bins.
Yeah,
Great.
But it's all set up. Like to your question, it's all the spa's already 38. The cold pool's already 50. I don't like it too cold, so it's like 15.
Yeah.
So I just do contrast.
Should be about
Sounds like
12. Should be about 12. Josh, it's
Right.
maybe just
15.
cutting a few corners.
I don't believe in
Doesn't-
cold therapy.
Nah, I think you'd be too young, but early in my career it was like ice, like 5 degrees, like you need to freeze your body. And then studies came out. I heard that statement about 100 times in my career. Studies came out and that wasn't, cold immersion wasn't actually the guy. It was actually time in water.
Yep.
Not actually the temperature. And then it was like get sleep and like get as much sleep as possible. You need to sleep 15 hours a day. It changes.
15 hours.
Yeah. I know. I like the fact you said you like your sleep. I had
Yeah, I
some
love it.
Good stories around that. We played an early game in Melbourne one day, and I'd come back from the hotel. We slept in the hotel. Bus was leaving at 11:30, and there was all the players were on the bus. I came down from my room 11:20 out of bed, like literally just stepped out of bed, put clothes on, no shower,
Straight
bags on. Got a Brownlow vote that day. Very good. I've got to ask you about this one. A bit of humour to start with, but then a bit of a serious element at the back of it.
Yep.
I'm a very big fantasy football player in terms of not being in my own team, as in hosting my team. Josh Dunkley has been a member of my side for the last how long have you been in the league? Since 2016.
Yeah.
You talked about leadership group in the team. You're in
my leadership group. Fantasy footy, do you play it?
No, I don't.
Do you pay attention to it?
I'm aware of it because it comes up on the app when you're looking at stats and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes up on there.
Yes.
So I'm aware of it. I get a lot of messages about it.
Well, that's when my serious part's going to come in. But are you a stats guy? Like, do you look how many kicks, handballs?
I'm not real concerned about total volume of disposals. It's more like impact. So score involvements or score assists and things like that.
Yep. And then the serious element is around that. We've spoken to a few guys on here about the fantasy football, but the betting element as well. What's that like as a player who would be highly featured in multi-bets and fantasy teams? When you play well, I'm assuming great. Yeah. But if you don't play so well?
Yeah, it's probably 10 times worse than when you play well. I've had a couple of guys say thanks for playing well, like send me their multi and their total value of money that they've won.
I mean, that's nice.
Yeah.
You like them, but you'd be copping some...
Oh, there's some shocking ones.
Stuff, wouldn't you?
I've spoken about a couple of them. 1 year against Sydney, I think it was my second year, and I dropped the mark in the goal square. We were down by 4 points. Would have 30 seconds to go in the game. Would have put us up if I had to kick the goal, which I'm sure I would have, but missed it. And then I got a message after that game. I was devastated after that game, like in tears in the rooms. Young kid, lost a game for us, pretty much. I know a lot of other moments come into it, but checked my phone, and that was when we didn't have the restrictions on messages and stuff like that we have today. So you can restrict a lot of it now. But it was essentially the map from Marvel Stadium to the Westgate Bridge, and they said, go and jump off.
Wow.
And that's when you sit there and you're like, wow. And I'm already at an all-time low. Like I've never experienced losing an AFL game of footy for your team.
Yeah.
You could have won it, would have been the opposite. Like best game of the year, best game of your life, winning the game of footy.
Do you reckon that's just do you reckon that's malicious and the person's a bad person, or do you think it's a misunderstanding, or not even no understanding of footballers and athletes being people and like a non-humanisation?
Yeah,
you're just a number on the page.
I strongly believe that people see us as something else, like someone else. Like we can, no matter what they say to us, we can cop it and move on. But we're actually, like you said, we're human. Like we're all the same. No matter what job you do, everyone is human. And I feel like people take that for granted a lot, especially when it comes to these things. And I don't know if I cop it more than others, but even to this day, there's still little things that get sent through and you talk about it. You try and manage it as a player, and at times, like I'm lucky I've got Dad because he's been through a lot of it. Obviously technology back in the day, but they didn't have it. But I can call him, pick him up, ask him what he would do in this situation. He'd normally give me good advice. So
yeah, that is good.
It's hard to manage at times, but I just try and get the message out there that we are human and we are, you do see these things. So try and look after us a bit more. You've
been working on your personal brand as well. I mean, you're in the media a bit, and you're well spoken, and you can handle yourself. And so there'd be guys that are probably worse off than you that don't have the dad to call, that don't have. It's a interesting and good point. Well made. Last one, a bit of a funny story. This one, apparently, you can be the judge of that. Once ended up on a Hawks footy trip at Oktoberfest. I think he was basically abandoned by whoever he was travelling with. And Jared Ruffhead, who we're interviewing tomorrow here, so I'm going to be able to confirm or deny this, just grabbed him and he got involved. Good value. Had a few beers like the rest of us. True or false?
True.
Very good.
A few too many beers, actually. So I was kicked out.
Of the Hofbrau tent? Is that where you boys were?
Yep.
Very good. So
I assume
how does that happen?
Do you want to know the story?
Absolutely, I do. Want me to just shut up?
So, I was in London. That was 2017. So that was the year that I said that I struggled a little bit, and I caught up with Ruffy because Ruffy's been a family friend and a good mentor of mine ever since I was, coming into the system. And Dad looked after him sort of when he was coming through and played AFL footy. So he said to me after the season, just get away, mate. Like, go away, travel by yourself. So I went by myself to London, went to Manchester, watched a game of EPL, and then I saw Ruffy in London one night. I just caught up with him, had a few beers and had a bit of a good night. And then he said, oh, what's your plans? Like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to Germany, like Munich.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, I'm going to be there too. What time? Figured out it was the same time. So he said, come along. And so I probably looked like I was just walking in and knew that they were all there and just jumped on the table and how good. But Ruffy invited me. So ask him. If he says he didn't invite me, I'd be staggered.
He'll stitch you up, I bet you. No, we just found him on the ground somewhere, dragged him along.
Yeah. Well, I joined the table and it was a bit weird at first, but the Hawks boys, I'd actually trained with them as a 17-year-old, like AFL Club Week.
Yes.
So I knew most of them.
Unreal.
But they were probably like, who's this bloke? Like, I met him for a week and then he's coming and joining our footy trip.
Buddy Franklin kicked me off a table at a Vegas nightclub one time. It was a Hawthorn footy trip. And we joined in because I was with Matthew Spanger, our mutual friend. And I remember Buddy booting me with his foot out of the booth. I won't. Anyway, I won't continue with that. A couple of these ones for you, mate. Social media. You've heard enough from Dan and I. Some questions from the people for the man. Social media, not social.
Yep.
You see what I've done with that?
Yep.
Are you impressed?
Very.
Thank you. Sack,
I don't think he's impressed.
He's impressed.
Okay.
Don't worry, he's impressed. He's impressed with that as he was with the trophy that's sitting in front of us,
Yeah.
which is very. Sack Jamble.
The second one there.
No, the first one would be great. Yeah, second one. Yes, absolutely. I think. Wait. Yes. Wait. No. The third one. Wait. Yes. Third one, please. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry. Doing you a favour, don't worry. Third one.
Yeah.
So be honest. Are you the best Dunkley athlete from your family?
You got siblings?
Sister plays netball.
Yeah, sister plays netball for Queensland Firebirds.
Yes.
Brother played for Melbourne.
Yes.
Dad obviously played for Sydney. I'm going to say Dad's ahead of me in games, so he's probably the top of the tree.
Yes.
Lara's vice captain of the Queensland Firebirds, so she's probably ahead of me because she's a vice captain.
So you're third currently?
Probably third, and then Mum's obviously there as well. I'll put Mum at the top.
I was going to say, put your mum at the top.
Because Mum's done everything for us, and we love her dearly.
So your sister then plays against your partner? Is that right then?
Correct.
How does that go down?
Well, they used to play together, and now they're playing against each other. So
of course,
my sister plays mid-court, like centre wing attack, and Tipper, my partner, plays goal attack, goal shooter. So they don't really cross paths much, but when they do, they probably throw an elbow in.
Harry.G, 77, couple of elbows.
What was a better grand final venue, the MCG or Optus Stadium?
Oh, I'm going to say the MCG spectacle. I think the Optus spectacle is really good. Like, it was awesome that day. Obviously, not winning didn't help, but the MCG grand final day, I don't think you can beat it, personally.
Agreed. I agree with you. Liv_Flora, kind of touched on it, but just
who are you
one word answer.
So if Tipper and Laura are playing each other, who are you rooting for?
Adam always asks me this question. I just say I'm torn down the middle.
No.
I got to choose one?
Yes.
Oh.
It's pretty much who you got to apologise to.
Yeah, I know.
Nah, I won't do it.
Nah, don't do it to me.
Can't pick one.
Well,
no, okay, don't.
The fact that they were 1-1 this year is good. It was a good result for me.
Good answer. Nicky Sambo. Okay, Nicky.
How much did you dominate Scully when you played on him?
You wouldn't have a memory of playing against me.
Yeah, the elimination final.
Yes.
Yeah, I reckon we might not have played on each other.
I might have gone to you. You're taller. I was
taller mid.
At some stage, I used to play on
I just try and think of my games against West Coast. That game, I kicked 2.
Perfect. Yep, perfect. I was probably on you then.
I don't reckon you would have been.
This is the same as Jimmy Bartell yesterday. I thought Jimmy Bartell wouldn't have any memories. He's like, oh, yeah, we did play West Coast, and Scully played on me, and I kicked 3 and had 30. Sweet, yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was a good player. Tappy 95. Yeah, I'm interested.
How does Josh Dunkley like his eggs cooked?
Scrambled. Love scrambled eggs. But game day I do poached. So
sorry.
Why?
Why?
I love scrambled because it's like a bit of everything. Like, it's milky, sort of nice and fluffy, whereas game day I don't like to fill myself up too much, so poached. Okay. Every time.
I mean, eggs are eggs.
Yeah, but
unless you're at a
consuming
hotel.
the same amount of egg, right?
Hey?
You're still consuming the same amount of egg,
Yeah,
aren't
you are.
It's all mental, by the
You are. But I like, it is mental.
Okay, that's fine. You do you, man.
Jacob_Vanderwall.
Please record more episodes of On and Off Potty.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Adzi and I, last year, we wanted to get something going, like where we could show people that we are just human beings, like we were talking about before, and talk about our ups and downs and what we go through. And COVID hit last year, so we weren't able to do that. And then this year we got it off the ground and started doing some stuff before round one. I think it was a week before round one. And then we've just progressed, did some podcasts every week. We were doing it, and then started doing some YouTube vlogs and little things that people love. Like, people actually love it and support us really well. So it's been fun and nice little insight into our lives. And we've had a few weeks off of late, so we're going to pick it up this week.
Okay. I think this sounds like a little bit of a collaboration, back chat on and off pod at some
let's do
time
it.
frame. Yeah, we're in for that. That sounds great. Historic_football_collection. Oh, boy.
Is the big duck with sticky hands the best nickname at the club?
Who is the big duck with sticky hands?
I don't even think that is a nickname, is it?
Is that yours?
It's a good nickname.
Is that you?
The big duck with sticky hands.
I'm thinking it's Naughty's nickname, Aaron Norton.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I can't say that.
What's he like? What's he like to play with? He's one of my favourite players.
Yeah,
to watch
he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's just the way that he is as a person too, I think is impressive. Like, he's a country boy from Rockingham.
Yes.
So loves to, camp and things like that and has a good time. But when he switches on and he's on field, he's just one of the best players that I've ever been involved with. Like, the way that he can jump at a footy and then if he doesn't mark it at ground level, is one of the best as well. So just an incredible person and player.
I'm so happy I'm retired watching him play, because I no doubt would have to play on it. He the way he attacks packs, I just think as a teammate, you would just see him coming and you would know it's coming to ground. At the very worst,
That's the best thing about him.
he's not getting outmarked. And he smashes packs. I wouldn't be standing in front of him. I put it that way.
I'll never forget when he got drafted. He was drafted as a backman.
Yeah, absolutely was.
And the first match sim we played, he took like 20 intercept marks. And everyone was like, who's this bloke? Like, just got drafted.
Really?
19-year-old, 18-year-old kid, just destroying match sim.
Could you ever see him making a move back?
Yeah, probably.
Given that.
Yeah, given the experience that I've had with him and seeing him play down there, definitely. But at the time when he moved forward, it took a lot of work to get him to be a forward. And now he's obviously dominating as a forward. So I don't know.
He still kicks for goal like a backman.
Yeah. Don't tell him that.
No, correct.
He'll be flat.
No, we'll have to have a chat to Norts at some time. Good West Australian. We love them. Last question for this one. Liv_Floro.
Who are 3 teammates you'd take on a footy trip and one you wouldn't for any money?
One I wouldn't for
3
any
on,
money.
3, one.
One that you just definitely that you'd pay not to take.
3 that I would take, obviously Adam.
Yep.
I'd take Hayden Crozier. Good value. And probably Naughty.
Okay.
Yeah. All good value, good people. Love hanging around them.
Who doesn't get an invite? No, it's not even not an invite. It's like, you cannot come.
You couldn't pay me enough to bring this person along.
This is a bad one.
There's someone. He's too bloody nice. There's someone at your football club that is just a pest.
Yeah, he's
that
thinking
you can't
about that
have
person
around.
right
Yeah, I'll say someone. Leith Vandermeer.
Okay.
Just because he just doesn't stop. Like, he's always got to be doing something.
Flat out.
Yeah, flat out. And I'm trying to teach him because I'm a bit of like probably one of his mentors.
Yes.
I like to hope so. But
You might need him on the footy trip with you then. That's how he can learn.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to flick one of that. Maybe you need to flick Adzi from the footy trip. You're already good mates with him. Footy trips are about bonding.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Right? So
Good
maybe
call.
Adzi can just stay at home, look after the house, make sure your ice bin runs okay. And then get the big fella Vandermeer.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All done, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, we loved having you on. Appreciate your time. Really generous. We've got some stuff we'd love for you to take back to the backline boys.
Okay.
All right, BackChat. Used to play in the backline. We got some merch. I don't believe it's here unless Sammy's been able to organise it out there in the background. But specifically for the backmen, would you be able to do that for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll sort that out. Thanks for listening. So you can find us on social media, BackChat_. Send us an email if you've got any questions at any time. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. Hope you're taking notes here, Joshy Dunkley, because this is how you wrap up a podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, Whippersnapper, Blue Bet, Margaret River Roasting Co., Leadable Cameras, and of course, Shelter. the wonderful people that support this. We love you. Find everything you need to know, backchatpodcast.com.au. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us anywhere you get them.